welcome to the show. My name is T, and we are talking scary movies. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new episode. Remember, every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, I'm going to have a new interview for you, some horror news, or an opinion piece for you to check out. But throughout the week, I am releasing multiple reviews for everything in the world of horror, including movies, TV shows, books, games, whatever I'm checking out there. And if you want to stay on top of everything I'm bringing to you on my channel, you got to get subscribed to my link tree. And you can do that by going to linktr.ee/T scary movie. If you get subscribed to my link tree, that's going to give you access to my YouTube page for the video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms for the audio only versions of the show, to my Letterboxd page for written reviews and my movie rankings throughout the year, to my TikTok page for my short horror content, including movie premieres and movie news, to my Twitch page where you can catch my horror gaming, which is going to include this month The Thing for PlayStation 2 and Rewind or Die, and to my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy my 20% off discount, anything in the Fangoria shop, including a yearly subscription to the physical magazine. Take advantage of everything there on my link tree, y'all. Hit that subscribe button, especially if you're watching on YouTube, as the more subscribers I get, the more content I can put out for all of you. And don't forget, every month we do a giveaway here now. This month we're giving away a little golden book of A is for Alien. You might remember this book came out just a couple of months ago and it sold out pretty quickly here. And while it might get restocked, I'm giving you a chance to get a copy sooner than later. And every video in the month of August that you comment on will give you a chance to be entered to win A is for Alien, folks. So let's go ahead and talk about what we have here coming up for you tonight. Folks, we're going to be discussing what's coming out here in the month of August. We still got so much great horror coming here in the second half of the year, and I'm specifically going to focus in on 3 titles hitting theaters over the next few weeks, including Cuckoo, Alien Romulus, and Strange Darling. So we're going to jump into those just a little bit later on, but we're going to start off with some horror news for you, folks. So, our first story here tonight focuses on Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead franchise. Now, you might remember, back in 2021, Zack Snyder premiered the film Army of the Dead, which was seen as the long-awaited follow-up to his Dawn of the Dead remake done 2 decades prior, which got critical acclaim when it came out. Now, Army of the Dead was not a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, but it took the zombie premise, updated it a bit, changed the zombies a bit as well, too, and told the story of a group of mercenaries hired by an eccentric billionaire who are sent into a now zombified Las Vegas to retrieve an item of importance before the town is nuked. Now, with Army of the Dead, had a great cast, some great special effects in it, and a very intriguing story as well, that a lot of people were really excited for the follow-ups that Zack Snyder announced that were taking place. Now, we got one of those. We got the prequel, Army of Thieves, which focused on one of our characters of the ensemble group in Army of the Dead, but wasn't really a zombie film. We had very little interaction with the zombies compared to what we saw in Army of the Dead. But we were also told that we were going to get a animated prequel series. We were going to get a live action follow-up titled Planet of the Dead. There were all these big plans for these films to come out. Now, as you know, Zack Snyder ended up launching a new franchise on Netflix titled Rebel Moon. And in the most confusing release strategy ever, Netflix, who knew Zack Snyder put together and at like the cut that he wanted to, his director's cut, decided that they would release the theatrical cuts of these films first and still advertise that they'd be releasing the director's cuts months later. Now, I don't know about all of you, but the whole idea of a director's cut typically is it's the film that the studio or the director themselves decided that, you know what, this just can't go out to theaters. Might be a case of it's too long, and if you want to get more showings in for a certain movie in a day, sometimes you got to cut stuff down to ensure it makes the most money. It could be that certain plot elements just don't work for the finished product, and you got to take those out so that the rest of the movie is a little bit more concise and a little bit more straightforward. Happens all the time as well too. And the thing is that a lot of times what'll happen is they save the director's cut, extended cut, whatever you want to call it typically, for the home video market. digital and on physical media usually ends up, especially in the horror space, and a lot of times these days in the action space, ends up with some kind of extended cut or director's cut to where it's a bit longer. You add in a bit more gore, a bit more cursing, maybe a bit more nudity. But if you're really lucky, a lot of times it ends up being, in some ways, a completely different picture narratively. Now, there's a lot of films that have done this here, and Zack Snyder is actually a director who's notorious for having these director's cuts out there. A lot of it really came in when he was doing a lot of his work with DC, but even a lot of his other projects that are non-DC work ended up falling along those lines as well too. And you'll hear different stories from both sides as to who initiated this, but either way, it falls on Netflix for being idiots to not just release the director's cuts in the first place, because apparently the versions of those for Rebel Moon are much better than the theatrical versions. Either way, the issue is that the release strategy of these films ended up being a colossal failure for both Zack Snyder and for Netflix, and we have to assume that with the story popping up that was announced by The Wrap today, that Netflix is stopping any development on the Army of the Dead franchise. We have to assume that it's probably tied to the failure of the Rebel Moon franchise. Now, what's interesting about that is that apparently Rebel Moon was going to connect to Army of the Dead. So there was this big grand plan for those two franchises to actually be connected together. But doesn't really matter anymore at this point, because it doesn't look like Netflix is going to put the money into Zack Snyder to continue on with these ambitious plans. It sucks because I was a big fan of Army of the Dead. I wasn't a big fan of Army of Thieves, and I'm honest about that. The reasoning for it is because I wanted more of the zombie madness. I wanted more of everything that Army of the Dead gave to us. And I like Dieter a lot. I'm pretty sure that's the character's name, who's the star of Army of Thieves, the safecracker. I like Dieter a lot for sure, but that concept of that film wasn't going to do anything for me. I want to see those characters that we got to know in Army of the Dead. I'd like to see them before the events of that film, because we saw there was a lot of stories told in Zack Snyder's like musical intro for that film, that there were a lot more stories to tell about these characters, but we're not going to get that anymore. And they very well set up for a sequel that looked incredibly ambitious as well, and we're not going to get that one either. So with Omari Hardwick, who survived the end of the film, going on, who I would assume would be the central piece of Planet of the Dead. But we're not getting any of that now, and I have to believe this is a missed opportunity for sure. I am a Zack Snyder fan. I'm gonna be completely real with that. I am a Zack Snyder fan. I'm not one of the crazy Snyderverse kind of guys. And that being said, I do enjoy Zack Snyder's DC work, but I think that Zack Snyder actually has a decent amount of films that I really, really do enjoy, honestly. Rebel Moon's not really my bag, but it's a means to the end. I figured that once these were done, he would be jumping back into Army of the Dead. So I'm bummed out by that for sure, and Netflix just continues to make these weirder and weirder choices with how they release their content, how they market it, how they get eyes on it. It's the weirdest thing in the world. Netflix, the lack of interest in Rebel Moon does not mean there's a lack of interest in Army of the Dead. One of the few things that your company actually does well is work with horror. That's one of the few things that you guys do well, whether it is the selection of movies that you have on your service or it's the new movies that you do premiere on it. It's one of the things you guys do actually really, really good, and you should stick with that because that's a winner for you. But who am I? Who am I to say that? Whatever. That's the case with that now. In other news, we also found out that A24 will be releasing novelizations of Ty West's X trilogy. That there's going to be novelizations for X, Pearl, and Maxine that'll begin coming out at the end of September. And it looks like that they've gotten Tim Wagner on board to actually write these novels, or at least the novelization of X. Now, if you know that name, that's because Tim Wagner has written a number of movie novelizations, including the novelization for Halloween Kills. Now, I've not read this yet because I do have the novelizations for Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends, the only one that he actually wrote of that. And as y'all should remember from my reviews, I do enjoy that trilogy. I was fine with David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy, honestly. So I'm excited to jump back into Halloween Kills, the novelization, and I'm really excited for these new books as well. You know, I released my review for Maxine, about a month or so ago at this point, and while I did enjoy Maxine, I was very much let down by it because I had very, very high expectations after my gushing over X and really enjoying Pearl. So Maxine was a bit of a letdown for me, but I still did enjoy the film, and I'd be happy to read a novelization on that. I love horror movie novelizations, honestly. Like, I actually, funny enough, like bringing up Halloween Kills, between gifts I received and me purchasing them myself, I have the novelizations for Halloween 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, David Gordon Green's trilogy there. And I have a bunch for like a bunch of other stuff as well too. So I'm excited to really crack into those. The moment that they're up for sale, I'm definitely going to jump into that. And also, Tim Wagner wrote the novelization for Terrifier 2 as well. So the guy's got some street cred there, and he's writing books that we know that source material very well. So that only stands to say that these should be great books as well too. And honestly, of the three, Maxine is the one that I'm looking most forward to, because I have a feeling the novelization is going to give us more of the point of view from the serial killer's perspective, the one that's going around killing those people in the background of Maxine, which I don't want to spoil who that is because obviously the movie only just came out. But I have a feeling that the book's not only going to give us Maxine's perspective, but it's going to give us that killer's perspective as well too. And I'm very much interested in that killer's perspective after seeing some of the events of the film. Either way, we don't have to wait too long. The novelization for X will be releasing September 24th. The novelization for Pearl will come out November 19th. And then the novelization for Maxine is going to come out sometime in early 2025. With the release strategy like kind of skipping every other month, I would imagine that means we're looking at January for that. But stay tuned for more details, folks. So that's going to cap it here for our horror news tonight. And now let's move into talking about the movies in the month of August that you're going to want to go and check out for yourself. So like I said, I wanted to talk about 3 specific films here for you guys. I wanted to start off first with Cuckoo. Now, Cuckoo is the latest release from Neon, who just had a banger of a time with Longlegs. The biggest opening for them, getting critical reviews both in directing, writing, and acting, and it's getting remarks as one of the best horror films of the year. It's definitely in my list for the top 10 horror films of the year for sure. So there is a lot of expectations being tied here to Cuckoo, which tells the story of a teenage girl who moves to the German Alps to live with her father and finds out that the location that she's living at with him, something nefarious is going on with the person that runs her father's business, and it's something supernatural. Now, that's all I can really say because I've been trying like crazy to avoid the marketing for this. And I don't know the reason for that, honestly, because Cuckoo and Longlegs have been the 2 films that I've been so like strict about not trying to check anything out about them before I've seen them. And granted, I saw a little bit of Cuckoo's marketing, or not, of Longlegs marketing before I saw the film. Not that much. I did that whole Nick Cage phone call thing they had going on for a while too that they took out of the movie. And for Cuckoo, I think I've seen the same trailer like over and over, and I'm trying to stay away from anything else behind the scenes just because I don't know much about it, and I want to walk in surprised for it, honestly. Dan Stevens and Hunter Schafer are, I mean, let me scale back here. The cast is really where my familiarity stands with. We have Hunter Schafer from like Euphoria. You have Dan Stevens, who is the horror daddy of the last year at this point. Jessica Henwick is in this. Like, there's people in here that we for sure know, that we for sure recognize, but outside of that, don't really know what else to expect here from this film. I'm hoping that there's going to be some good scares in it. Again, the one trailer that I've seen has very much left me feeling uneased for sure, and that's a great feeling to have with a new horror film that's coming out because it doesn't feel like it's run-of-the-mill at all. And the fact that I need some good supernatural films to hit me this year, because we've had, some good slashers. I've actually seen some decent slashers coming out this year. We've had some good monster movies come out as well. We've had some good creature features, but supernatural ones haven't really played the way that I've really hoped that they would this year for me. And that's really what's been sorely missing from my list when I'm kind of going through it. So I'm hoping if that's what this is, like a real supernatural film, that it gives me something really, really good to actually like sit there and just immerse myself in. I think Hunter Schafer's great, honestly, and I think that this can end up being a very promising start for a very, very big film career. Honestly, it's like the cast of Euphoria, especially all the women of Euphoria, are having a banger of a time with their film careers right now, whether it's Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney, or in this case, Hunter Schafer. Like, it seems like there's a lot of really good stuff coming out here. And I know Hunter Schafer got to do Kinds of Kindness, so that's really good. And I don't know what really else is on the horizon. I know we're going to get another season of Euphoria that's rumored to start filming sometime next year. We'll see if that works out. But this seems like a very good start for her and her like big starring role for sure. This seems like this will hopefully lead to big things, and that regardless how the movie is taken, so far the response to her seems to be very positive, and I'm loving that one for sure now. So we'll see. The fact that Dan Stevens is in there is a good sign for us as well too. Dan Stevens, in my personal opinion, is one of those actors now who really doesn't have too many misses, honestly, especially if we're talking about recently. I mean, think about what we have here. Abigail, Godzilla vs. Kong, The New Empire, The Boy and the Heron. What else do we have on here? The Rental. Now I'm trying to remember the one that he did that we were just, The Guest. Yeah, like Dan Stevens, it has certified bangers for sure. And so I gotta hope here that this is just gonna be another victory piece for him, because honestly, even at the movies, he's had like a few that haven't really hit the right way for sure. He's always gotten really good marks. So I'm hoping that continues here with Cuckoo as well. Alien Romulus is coming out here soon as well too. I believe that releases on August 15th. Now, what we know about this one so far, and I have a great interview coming up with a very special guest that's going to be coming on next week's episode for you guys to check out here. But we know that the movie is going to be set between Alien and Aliens, and that anybody who was kind of waiting for a follow-up to Alien Covenant, we're not really going to get that with this film from all looks of what we've seen thus far. I don't think we're going to be going back to David or to, the engineers or anything like that. And that's fair. New director, new writer. Fede Alvarez is going to do an amazing job with this. Understand we can't get everything. And so the speculation is high for what the tie-in story really is going to be, because I think that in a lot of ways it would probably be very easy and probably the simplest explanation that we're going to get a name drop for somebody like Ripley or the Nostromo or whatever. I think that's probably a given that we're going to get something like that. But who knows what the actual overarching contained story is going to be. I have a theory, and I'm probably dead wrong about this here, but we know that almost every single entry in here deals in some way with the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. And typically it's been a case of they find out something about the xenomorphs, like their existence typically, and they want to catch a xenomorph. They want it so they can manufacture it and make all the money in the world off of this creature. And of course, again, I know the prequels taken in a completely different direction, but that's just the ongoing running story when it comes to Weyland-Yutani. And I'm curious if what we actually might get here is kind of like the story of Hadley's Hope, but it's like the first attempt for that. Because if obviously you've seen Aliens, if not, what are you doing? Go fucking watch Aliens. But the whole idea and the whole story of Aliens is that the Weyland-Yutani Company has settlers go and form a settlement on LV-426. And that becomes Hadley's Hope. And the thing is that they're doing that because they want to breed the xenomorphs and hopefully, again, get them brought back to the company so that they can use them for their own financial gain. And we know how that worked out ultimately. Hadley's Hope completely wiped out with the exception of Newt, basically. And so Ripley and the Colonial Marines show up. Everybody gets fucking massacred at that point. Burke is there to try to get somebody infected and bring the xenomorph back. My theory is that this movie might end up being the earlier iteration of Hadley's Hope. That the Weyland-Yutani Company maybe found an egg, like one egg or two eggs of the facehuggers, and somehow managed to get these and put them on a space station somewhere and basically let them run amok and do whatever they're going to do to set it up as a controlled experiment so they get more information on the xenomorphs and have a better idea and understanding of how they could use these weapons. Because the thing is that they are very much aware of them in Aliens. And when they send Ripley and Burke and the Marines there to go investigate, they're very much aware of what's there and what's probably going to happen. And again, Alien 3, same thing. When, you know, the message gets sent out and they come to collect Ripley, but they're really there to collect the queen that's inside Ripley at that point. Again, they have an idea of what this shit is happening. So I don't think it's too fantastical of a theory to assume that this movie might be a controlled experiment by Weyland-Yutani and all of these people are going to die. Like, I am very much anticipating a downer of an ending similar to Alien Covenant. And y'all know I love Alien Covenant. I love that movie. And that ending is like the most downer ending of the entire franchise, honestly. Like, I know folks say, like, folks think that it's Aliens because, like, we see the end of Aliens and then you know what happens in Alien 3, that happy ending is complete bullshit that they get at the end of the film. But I think it's Covenant, honestly, because they didn't know what was going to happen at the end of Aliens. Like, it's all smiles ahead. Everything is going to be great. That still leaves that film by itself being a happy ending in a vacuum. Alien Covenant is it's like so bleak with what they do and how they treat Daniels and everybody else who kind of made it to the end of that film, because you know they are fucked. And maybe one day we'll get those answers. Maybe one day. I doubt it. But Ridley Scott is still going right now. You never know what could happen, honestly. I hope I'm willing it into fruition. But that's my theory on what's going to happen here with Alien Romulus. I'm bummed out because unless something changes and there happens to be an early screening that's available next Wednesday, I'm not going to be able to catch this film opening night or even the next night. I'm going to have to somehow catch this an early showing next weekend. I'm bummed about that, but I'll be staying away from spoilers, so stay tuned because I'm going to have a review coming out for y'all on that. And the last film to talk about here is a film called Strange Darling. Now, Strange Darling stars Willa Fitzgerald, who you should know from like the first season of Reacher or from House of Cards. She's been in a lot of stuff, honestly. But it also stars horror himbo, horror daddy, horror king, Kyle Gallner. That name should sound familiar because this man is horror royalty, honestly, y'all. Let's talk about some of the films on this list. Red Eye, Haunting in Connecticut, Jennifer's Body, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, Red State. Let's see, what else do we have? Scream, also known as Scream 5, Smile, The Passenger. Folks, my man has been killing it in the horror genre, and this upcoming film, Strange Darling, that focuses on a young woman who's apparently been ensnared by a serial killer in the last days of his spree. This is going to be an interesting and fucked up one for sure, y'all. We know that Kyle Gallner does an amazing job playing these guys that have some fucked up tendencies, honestly. If you haven't seen The Passenger, that was one of the first films that I reviewed this year. Might be the first film I actually reviewed this year. Just blown away. That is such a brutal movie, and a big reason for that is watching Kyle Gallner in that movie just go through and put on this masterclass of this child who's dealing with, not a child, but of this young man who's dealing with just so much pain and looks for a way to save this other person who he sees going through the same thing, but he has a fucked up way of showing him how he can make it through this pain and kind of like tossing that over to other people. It's an absolutely ridiculous movie that's available on Prime. And you should definitely check it out if you get the chance to. It's phenomenal here. But you put Kyle Gallner in a psychotic role playing a serial killer. That is all I need. Willa Fitzgerald looks magnetic in this. Like, something about her in this from the trailer I've seen draws you to her, and I'm sure that's like the whole give. That's the catch of this film, is that this killer, the demon, is drawn to this lady because of her presence. And maybe it's a case to where he doesn't know if he can kill her or if he even wants to kill her because of this overwhelming sense of power that's coming to him from her. It's very interesting. Looks like a very, very interesting film, and it's coming out later this month here on August 23rd. I'm really excited to see it, honestly, if just for the cast alone. Ed Begley Jr.'s in it. Barbara Hershey's in it. Barbara Hershey, queen right there, our insidious queen. And Giovanni Ribisi is in it as well, too. Is actually one of the producers on the film as well. And I mean, I do love me some Ribisi for sure. Now, Gone in 60 Seconds is my joint. The Mod Squad, I love that as well too. So again, another one of these films that's smaller scale, but has a great cast in it. That's enough to be a draw to go and check this one out. We have a lot of really good horror coming out this month, y'all. And the crazy thing is that you're not a person that thinks that August is a part of the spooky season. We still have so much coming out this fall, y'all. There's still so many great things for us to look forward to. So I want to know, again, for a chance for you to win a copy of A is for Alien, what are you looking forward to the most this fall? Is there a movie that's coming out here starting in August all the way to Halloween that you're looking forward to the most? Let me know in the comment section for a chance to win A is for Alien, folks. And yeah, stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button because we got more great reviews coming out for you, including All My Friends Are Dead, Humane, Cuckoo, Alien Romulus, and more in the world of Mayfair Witches and Interview with the Vampire, folks. But that's going to do it for me here tonight. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared. Boy here is a big fan of Fangoria. So, if you want to check out the world's best horror magazine that's out there, get a chance to get yourself your own subscription, which I just got my first one back in 2022, and I don't regret it for a second. But if you want your own Fangoria subscription, or you like the Fangoria merchandise, then head over to the Fangoria shop and use my link if you want to save yourself some money, folks. That's an easy one to remember. Just go to shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW. Again, that's shop.fangoria.com/AXDEW, or use my specific code AXDEW at checkout. You can save 20% off your entire order, and that implies 2 subscription and one-time orders as well. You don't want to miss out, folks, because with the magnitude of horror movies we've had released in the last few years, and with what we have on the horizon, Fangoria is going to be your #1 source for all that great, juicy, bloody information in the world of horror. So again, head to shop.fangoria.com. Hey there, folks! Thanks for tuning in to T Watch This Scary Movie. I appreciate you checking out another review or movie news, whether we're talking movies, TV shows, books, or games, whatever, it's all scary. Remember, you can check out new episodes every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on the YouTube page for video. That's youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. Again, youtube.com/C/Theron Reynolds Scary Movie. And you can check out the audio version on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search T Watch the Scary Movie or TWASM. Don't forget, my name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.